the periods of non-constitutional rule have fostered people who really do not have these competencies, but they are pushed into those positions by being fostered. So it's a very difficult situation, because really I say this again and again, the political system today, I'm talking about the system, does not have the competence or the ability to solve Pakistan's complex problems today. We've kicked the can down the road too far, and now we're at the end of this trip.
Right.
We're at the end of the road here. So you need people who have the competence to be able to address Pakistan's issues today. Those are very, very few.
Thank you, very interesting. Can I ask about your bureaucratic class? Do you have people who are up to the level in running a big, complex economy and country like this? And if not, why not?
No, that's the other side of the problem. Till, I would say, the mid-90s, the minister only came into the ministry a few times a week, signed a few files, and that was his only job. He attended cabinet meetings, approved things. Today, if the minister does not provide leadership, the bureaucracy does not have the competence or the experience to resolve the issues of that ministry. Why has that happened? Because we have been left with a very archaic system of governance, which does not allow competence or experience to be built up. For example, if you take the federal government today, you take the petroleum ministry or the power ministry, every decision is in billions of dollars. The people, the secretaries who come there, for example, both the secretaries who are holding these positions today have never ever worked in the federal government. These are all federal officials, but they prefer to work in the provincial governments because the perks are and the power privileges there are much higher. So when they reach the end of their career in the last, and when they hold the highest grade in the bureaucracy, they prefer to come back, or they are forced to come back to the federal government.
Right.
So today we have federal officers working at the tehsil level, which is the lowest administrative unit in the provinces. We have people at the federal level, at the district level, people at the division level, people in the provincial government, all federal officers. This has to change. The provinces should have their own bureaucratic structures, and the federal government needs to specialize. Today you can be the secretary for power today and can be the secretary for religious affairs the next day.
Right.
So that experience is not transferable. These are not administrative issues anymore.
Does this country have a school of national administration the way France does, for example?
Yes, we do. We do. It's right next door. But again, the people go through that, but they still remain in the provinces.
Okay.
So they do not have the experience of federal government. They do not have the experience of the issues that federal government has to resolve.
Right.
So if the minister does not provide leadership, that's why I said earlier, the minister must have those three competencies to be able to deliver governance.
Right. Can I ask a question about your diaspora? You have a lot of extremely talented, in some cases rich, successful, smart people all over the world. Have you thought in Pakistan of bringing back and enlisting their help in bringing your country out of crisis, or developing it, to put a more positive spin on what needs to be done here?
Well, I think that's a good point. We have over 9 million Pakistanis working abroad. Even the mayor of London comes from Lahore, Sadiq. So we do have that advantage that we could seek their help. I really think there should be a political change in this country. I think the best form of government and the constitution is the German one. After the war, they have a very good system where the three major political parties, if you are less than 5%, you are out, as you know that. So the three parties which are there, they nominate, if there are 200 members in the parliament in Germany, they say that these are the 200 people that we will get into the parliament party. And that is why in Germany you have everybody, you have Dr. Schiller, Dr. Kissinger and all that. So they are not constrained that they have to keep people who are not qualified, as we say. So I think we need to have something in Senate, for example, in Pakistan. If you look at it, there are all kinds of people in Senate. who have no place there. I don't want to go into names, but you know, people who are your relatives, who are, when somebody was a policeman, he might have helped you. He's become a senator and all that. So the concept of marriage in Senate, and then Senate is also very important, that it just balances the politics.
Couldn't that be settled with legislation? Isn't that something that your lawmakers could look at? Provisions against nepotism, or is that just a complete no zone in Pakistan? It's an innocent question. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think we need to, as I said, reduce the government. You know, there's simple things. For example, this is one of the few countries in the world where there is no price of water. No price of water. If you have washing your car, you keep on washing your car. If you're giving water to your farms and all that, we don't have any modernization in that also. I mean, if you look at IU farming also, we have got these pivots. You go from here to Islamabad on the right side, Sukhiya. I use only 20% water. And the rest of and that is why our crops are also distorted. Sugarcane would be never viable in countries like Pakistan. But since you have no price, everybody is doing whatever he wants to do.
Is there a strong farmers' lobby? I mean, I'm surprised the IMF hasn't pressed Pakistan on this point, if they're asking you to get rid of subsidies.
I don't know why, but they're getting involved in the smaller things, but the IMF is not talking about the water. We are not short of water. If we do have a price of water, I can tell you, we will have no shortage of water in this country. But since we do not price something, then you will misuse it and waste it. So these are very small things, you know, but they need to be done. You know, the price of water is one thing very fundamental to our economics, you know. So we need to do those things, you know. And then, it's a strange country. We have three borders. One with India, one with Afghanistan, and one with Iran. We don't trade with anybody.
And what, sir?
We don't trade with anybody. Most of the countries who have done well, do well on the regional trade.
Yes.
America, Canada, Mexico, when NAFTA was made, they said it will be a disaster for America. But that didn't happen. European Union, you look at it. And then Boris Johnson comes in, he takes you out of Brexit, and now you have a problem. So I think these are the few fundamental decisions we need to take.
So you're not exploiting your natural overland trading routes with your neighbors. Perhaps that's something that could change in the future with India, for example, with goodwill from both sides.
But I am not a politician or, you know, but I do feel that we need to regularize things with India. Come what may be.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's talk a little bit about the factors perhaps beyond Pakistan's control or only partially under your control, and notably climate change and this $9 billion of pledges that your country's gotten from the international community. I'd be curious about both of your reflections, or either of your reflections on this money. Do you think it's well-intended? Will it be well spent? What do we know about it? And will it be one step out of the crisis for Pakistan?
Yeah, Pakistan is a net recipient of the effects of global climate change. Our contribution by any measure in CO2 emissions or any other emissions are much lower on a per capita basis than probably most countries in the world, and certainly probably the lowest amongst the large countries in the world. The money that you just mentioned, my experience has been that these are mostly promises, and much of it doesn't materialize. So Pakistan has to use its own resources to help the effects of the recent floods. And we must also understand that these floods were not driven by flooding of the rivers. This was driven by rain. And they inundated area which does not have natural drainage. So the water will remain there till it evaporates. And that area is, because it does not have irrigation system as such, it is the poorest of the poor in the Sindh. So the people affected are literally people who were already on some level of subsistence before these tragedy came. So the money that will come or has come needs to be targeted into delivering services and measures which will mitigate the effects of such events in the future.
Do you like what you've heard from the international community? I mean, it's changed a bit of the discourse around Pakistan, right? That you're not just a victim of, your own collective bad decisions, but a victim of Mother Nature in this instance, and that the world has an obligation to help you. I mean, isn't that
yes, I think the world has recognized that, and I think the ministers have done a good job, and the Prime Minister in talking about the issue and how it has happened. Almost 1/3 of the country was affected by these floods, and these are unprecedented events.
Yeah.
I mean, even as we sit here today, this is the end of February and the temperature is 30 degrees. It's never happened before.
Yeah.
So, global warming or whatever, I think you see the effects very clearly in Pakistan.
Okay. Can I turn a bit and ask about your country's relations with the IMF? Because it seems like another dysfunctional relationship, and on both sides. I think we could put some blame on Washington as well, that you get these periodic bailouts. I can't remember that you might know the actual number of IMF programs Pakistan's been through, and
it's been a lot.
I think you know.
23.
Oh. Okay.
And only one is completed.
Which one was that?
The one from 2013 to 2018.
Okay. Where was the dysfunction there, and how does one fix that?
Well,
and I believe some of it's in Washington, so let's not, just to be clear, this is not I don't have any narrative on this.
yeah, we have made promises to deregulate, and so we do that when we need the money, and after a few months, that when we are slightly in a better position, then we forget about our commitment to the IMF. And that is now being felt very much in Washington. I think I've seen some statements from the IMF managing director, the lady. I think she's also made some exaggerated statements. The IMF guys don't do that on press and all that. So they have also been rather harsh with us. But the fact of the matter is, we've done 23 programs, and we are back to the same after a few years. And this is happening with other countries also. Argentina, Egypt. They've had so many programs, but 23 they haven't also had. So we need to go through, and our people are now prepared, I think, for the worst, that whatever is going to happen, we'll have to go through. If we mess up with it again, and now that the elections are coming, what's the, so now they want constitutional guarantees. No, I think that's a bit unfair.
How will the elections play into this dynamic? I mean, how will the two things relate?
I think nobody will talk about IMF, but they'll say interest rates have gone up.
Yeah.
Our prices have increased or things, For example, in India, the 1 liter of petrol is 300 rupees, and we have now gone to 272. So this was a thing we should have done gradually over the years.